Hi, this morning we're going to do one of the most difficult problems that we have encountered so far. And let me read it for you first so you have a clear idea of what is it that we're doing. In first place, we're working with Parkinson's disease, right? And now this is the text. It says, secondary Parkinsonism due to prescribed Thorazine, which is a neuroleptic drug, and this is the initial encounter, okay? So, we have a table here in all the types of Parkinsonism, and by the description, I can tell you that it is this column, or this row. Why? Because it's a secondary Parkinsonism and is due to a drug. This is the drug, and this is the secondary Parkinsonism. So, what we're going to have here is two codes. One is a G code for the Parkinsonism, and the drug would be a T code, which is the external causes. All the drugs are under the T, the letter T in ICD-10. Now, in order to understand, you have to have two concepts very clear. An adverse effect. What's an adverse effect? An adverse effect is, let's go to the web and read exactly. It's an undesired, harmful effect resulting from a medication. Okay, so what does it mean in this case? In this case, it means that the patient went to the doctor for a neuroleptic disorder. The doctor prescribed Thorazine, and because of that drug, the patient got Parkinsonism. That's what is secondary Parkinsonism, right? So the adverse effect means the harmful effect that this drug causes. Remember that, adverse effect, because in the path we're going to find adverse effect. The other thing that I want you to have very clear is that Thorazine, which is the drug that we're talking about here, is a derivative of phenothiazine. And we're going to go to the web and prove it to you. And I'm going to read here. Thorazine, right, is a derivative of phenothiazine. So, if in the path we find phenothiazine instead of Thorazine, is the same thing because this is a derivative of this. Okay? So, now the path is a little complicated because it involves a lot of steps. So I'm not going to read it step by step, but first Stephanie's going to take a picture of it, a shot of it, so you can pause and look at it. And also we're going to put the path here in the description. The whole path is there. You can analyze it from there. But first, let's just take a shot at the path to see how it looks on the screen. This is the whole path, you see? There are two codes, so the step one is to find in the index the first code. The step two is to check in the tabular this code, and the step three is to find in the index for the drug, and the step four is to check in the tabular for the drug. Okay, and it's a little complicated, but if you go to the description below, you will find all this written down. Okay, so now I'm going to take the camera, and Stephanie is going to do the actual coding.
Okay.
All right.
We go to the index first to find Parkinsonism.
Parkinsonism, which is Parkinson's disease. It's the same thing as Parkinsonism.
Right.
We've seen that in the previous problem.
First, we go way below the second column, and
Yes.
it shows us Parkinsonism.
Parkinsonism, right? And then from there we go to
The second column,
the
way
next
above,
column, right? And
then secondary,
secondary,
due to
due to
drugs.
drugs,
Finally, neuroleptic,
neuroleptic,
and it will show us the code G21.11.
G21.11. Now, all these is from the description. You're going to see the description here is secondary Parkinsonism, right? Neuroleptic drug, due to neuroleptic drug. Those four words lead you to the code. Secondary Parkinsonism due to neuroleptic drug. That's why you get the code. Okay, and the code is?
The code is...
Did you get it? Let's look again at the code.
Yep. Neuroleptic G21.11.
So we're going to write this code here. That's our first code.
G21.11.
Okay. Now we have to check that in the tabular. All these steps are explained in the path. So if we're going too fast or you get lost somehow, you just check the path. So we're going to go to
G21 Secondary Parkinsonism.
Secondary Parkinsonism, and then
we go to G21.1 Other drug-induced secondary Parkinsonism.
And then we find the words that we were looking for. Yeah, neuroleptic induced Parkinsonism, right?
That would be G21.11.
So we check that. So that's correct. But there's an additional an indication there. What does it say in red?
Use additional code for adverse effect, if applicable, to identify drug.
Which means that you need one more code to identify the drug, and we already knew that. That's why we wrote the T code there, right? So we're going to look for that code, okay? So how do we find that code for the drug?
We go to the drug table.
We go to the drug table. There's a table for drugs. Remember that there was a table for carcinomas? Now there's a table for drugs, okay? So
we go to Thorazine.
Thorazine, which is the drug that we have, right?
Right.
It's alphabetically, so under the T's we find Thorazine. Now there are several columns here. Which column do we want?
Adverse effect.
Adverse effect, because that's what we're looking for. So that's the code that we need. It's
T43.3X5.
X5. So let's write down it out here.
T43.3X5.
That's a code, right? So far. Now let's check that in the tabular. To check that in the tabular, we go first to the first three characters of our code, which would be T43. And in the tabular, you know they're alphanumeric organized, so you just go to the T's in the alpha sense, and then from there you go to the number, T43. So we go T and then T43. That's where we start, right?
Right.
Now for the old T43s, there's an indication there in red. Can you read it?
The appropriate seventh character is to be added to each code from category T43.
So we need one additional character that the index didn't give us. That's where we have to come to the tabular. In the tabular, it tells you that the code, that whatever code you find, you have to add the A for initial encounter, right? Because that's what our text says, initial encounter. So whatever code we find, we have to add the A to the final code, right?
Right.
So, okay, we keep that in mind. Then let's look for a code. Let's keep looking for a code.
Okay, we go way down to this column, T43.3.
Which is, we're checking the code that we have, right? So we go to the next character, which will be 0.3, and then?
It's T43.3X.
And now that's where you see phenothiazine, and that's what I told you, that you have to take into consideration that Thorazine is a derivative of phenothiazine. That's why you know you're in the right path. It doesn't say Thorazine, but it says phenothiazine. Okay, keep going.
We go way down to T43.3X5.
3X5. Why?
Because it shows the adverse effect.
Because it's adverse effect, what we're looking for. So that's our code, right? We check that is the code right, but then remember that we have to add an A for initial encounter, which they told us at the beginning, right?
Right.
So let's go here and add the A. Which will be the 7th character, right? So these are our two codes. G21.11 and T43.3X5A, right? And now we come to the book as a last step, and then we're going to check, and our codes are, the answer is G21.11 and T43.3X5A, which is what we wanted. Remember, if this gets a little complicated, go down to the description and follow the path. In the path are all the steps that you have to follow that Stephanie has just done now to find the answer to these two codes. Thank you.